is pretty hard to follow. I think we're probably going to be hungry and deadly force, which is something we really need to talk about. And that's the end game of anybody possessing a firearm. So that's probably too big of a topic to jump into before lunch. But let me just respond to a couple things Senator Tom said. I've worked on gun law, as I mentioned, and it's apolitical, so I don't care if they like it, don't like it, it is what it is. When I got around to doing the third edition, it took me 10 years to finally figure out how all these pieces fit together. Because in law, you can't look up what you can do, which seems logical. You got to look up and figure out what you can't do. So open versus concealed carry, know when it actually, I spent hours on what's the real law on that topic. And I'll get back to, we'll get into that later, but I'll just tell you, Senator Toms, I volunteer my time. Anybody that's got a gun discussion, if I can work into my schedule, by God, I'll do it. I hoped you all would come when I got up at 4 o'clock this morning. I didn't get in bed until midnight. I'm like, oh my God, where am I going back there again? I like it. Again. You're not going to find anybody ever in my life that's more pure than Jim Toms is as a senator, and you really should be involved in the legislative process. And I'm not. I'm as guilty as anybody else. I have my little narrow area of the world, and I don't get involved in it. But I'll tell you this much, as crazy as it is over there, if there's anybody that's going to ever regulate like water or nuclear power, I want it to be Jim Toms. You talk about crazy, the stuff that you read, wag the dog starting, I've never seen anything like it. When it came down to the final days, I agree with exactly what Jim Toms is doing. I get a call, it's 11:30 on a Sunday night, a day or two before, and there's some big dust up about this bill, and again, I'm apolitical, but they want to know what the real law was presently. They're like, can you come and have a meeting? I'm like, it's 11:30 at night. Don't you guys people have jobs? Seriously. But Jim Toms is the kind of person, if you're going to be involved, you should watch what goes on in the State House, and you also should really know what your legislators are really doing. I've never met anybody that quite swims upstream as much as I do, except him. When we were talking about the coal incident, I'm probably going to butcher the story, but it's priceless. One of the issue is Southern Indiana is a big coal area, and I guess it has high sulfur. And so there was an issue about whether we're going to have some restrictions on that. And Jim Toms, the classic line is, well, I like the smell of burning coal. So that's 292 is an interesting bill, and I'll just give you some of the history, because the more you understand about this whole process, the easier it'll be to make any kind of decision or have an informed choice as gun laws come around. When I got around to doing the third book, it took me 10 years to figure it all out, and I finally heard all these urban legends about these local ordinances. So I have an attorney in my office that rents space from us, and he's a government lawyer. So I walk in one day, and I'm like, Alan, I've heard all these crazy stories about laws, and I'll pick on, no one hears from Gary. I can pick on them because they get sued all the time anyway, I suppose. So they got sued in the city of Kellogg because they wouldn't even make the applications available to get a license, so they got sued in this federal civil rights lawsuit. But I hear all these urban legends about Gary, Indiana has these crazy laws. You can't have this gun, this gun, this gun. I'm like, well, I have all of those. So I walked into Alan, I'm like, I pay for Westlaw every month, which is a database lawyers can buy that basically is a supercomputer of all the laws out there. And I'm like, I can't find these ordinances. What am I missing? And he's done government work for years in local government. He's like, because they don't want you to find it. And I'm like, what? And then you can't have something and you want it. That makes me really want it. So basically for local ordinances, all they had to do was have a copy of it somewhere with the clerk in that little particular municipality, and you have to go there to get it. So I'm like, well, if I'm going to have these ordinances, if I'm going to have a complete book, I'm going to have these ordinances. So I had an army of people just pestering the crap out of all these local branches of government, and I got these ordinances, and I'm like, I can't believe these are the law in the state of Indiana. They not only are incongruous with Article 1, Section 32 of the Indiana Constitution, they flat out are facially invalid under the preemption bill that existed at the time. So that, putting those together was my little part in trying to pull together and say, hey, somebody needs to do something about some of the laws in local government. I still muse post-Hurricane Katrina, the Stafford Act passed, which says any police agency that can't or that gets federal funds can't confiscate lawfully possessed firearms. And I always muse to myself, there's going to be some qualifying disaster, and you're going to have somebody standing out in the street reading my book to figure out if they can take the gun or not. So here's talking about something that Senator Tom said. Any gun bill, and it's ironic, guns still have a negative connotation, because historically, if you want to do real facts are, since the 70s, violent crime has dropped across the U.S. TV brings it into real time, so the perception is there's more violent crime. There's one little spike in the 80s, but that isn't a good reason to have more gun legislation, nor is it a good reason to have gun legislation because you push the law. And I was involved in the Evansville case to the extent the Indiana lawyers doing a feature on Senate Bill 292, and it was the cover story because it created just havoc. It was pandemonium at the State House in the times I was there, and I had enough. By the time it's over, I wouldn't even be around for the final item. I don't care what they pass, just so I don't have to spend any more time over there. But anyway, the Evansville, was it the park?
Yeah.
Going to carry it just for the purpose of having it unconcealed. And my quote was, an Indiana lawyer, just because it's a legal right doesn't make it right to do it. Oh, that caused a firestorm. What kind of side are you on? I'm like, I'm on the side of common sense. Why would you want to push it if you don't have to? And I could carry a gun every day unless there's a metal detector. I have a different kind of gun. I have a little small North American Arms 22 Magnum. I can carry a gun every day in any kind of outfit. No one's ever going to know, because if the choice is the bad guy walks into the bank and you have your unconcealed gun, who's he going to shoot first? It ain't going to be me, but it's going to be the person carrying the unconcealed gun. The law on that is, it's not a law in Indiana to carry it concealed. It's a custom that you do, and unless you're, for instance, security guard carrying it for purposes of that for deterrence, it's a mistake 99% of the time to carry the gun unconcealed. And I've split hairs with Ken Campbell. If you ever want training that's outside of the NRA, Ken Campbell, the Boone County Sheriff, brings in the best trainers in the world, and I've had the chance to go there several times and shoot there. But we've had these conversations about open versus concealed carry. I've had it with judges and prosecutors. It's inviting a problem, and that's the last thing you want to do if you have a gun. So that's my little response to what Senator Tom said. But you want guys like him. He wore me out in the last legislative session.